We love food, as you can tell by the number of YouTube channels and TV shows about food. Whether it's about cooking it or eating it, we love watching people interact with food. Even more so, though, we like eating it ourselves. And I see people creating vacations around the food they're going to eat. Getting to eat authentic Asian or Mexican cuisine is a thing. Food has become the way that we entertain ourselves, for better or for worse. Hello, Wellness Warrior. If you're meeting me for the first time, I'm Violet. My channel is about how physical health and mental health are both needed for us to have that overall sense of well-being. If that's something you're working on, subscribe and ring the bell because I make new videos every week. We all interact with foods. Those first interactions, your parents are feeding you, your caregivers are taking care of you with food. And we learn that food helps us to feel good. And then we learn to cook. Usually our parents are teaching us how to cook meals that are traditional to where we're from. And that's important, I think, because those meals that are traditional to where we're from are giving us a bit of history, because the generation before us probably ate similar, and the generation before that and before that. We have a tendency today to believe that eating every kind of food under the sun is normal, when in fact, that's relatively new. We used to eat only what was available locally. But I would say in the last few hundred years, when we started to ship foods around the world, started with spices, easier to ship, they can be dried and they last longer, but then we got better at preserving things, and now we're able to ship vegetables and meats around the world. And we are now in a position where we can eat whatever we want, from wherever we want, whenever we want. And I believe that that's had an impact on our health. We don't simply eat to stay alive anymore, which I think is a good thing, because probably it was stressful years ago to not really know if I'm going to catch food tomorrow. Today's way of doing things, we go grocery shopping. And when we go grocery shopping, it isn't solely about buying the groceries that will keep us alive. There's a lot of fun and entertainment in what we're buying. And I think that this fun and entertainment in our food is what causes us to be concerned when the people that we care about aren't able to have fun with their food. So if my family members have allergies, or if my family members have weight issues and they can't eat all the fun things, like, we have concerns about them missing out, and they themselves feel like they're missing out. One thing I will tell you that happened to me is that my grandmother used to make the most delicious dessert. It was called pone. And I would look forward to the holidays just because that was the only time she really made it. I don't know if that was a time thing or if that was a she knows this isn't good for us thing, but it was delicious, it was sweet, and we only got it maybe twice a year. And we don't get it anymore because my grandmother passed away. And I remember the first holiday that came around after she passed away, and it wasn't just about missing her, because that was hurtful enough, but it was the realization that never again will I have pone, because nobody else in the family really made it the way she made it. And that was a sad day. What happens when you know people, or what if you're the person who has issues with weight or issues with allergies, and you're not able to eat all the fun, delicious things that other people are eating, especially if you used to eat it, like when a weight issue, and now you can't eat it anymore. I honestly feel like allergies are a little bit easier to deal with, because chances are you haven't tried a lot of the delicious fun foods that are made with nuts, for example, or that are made with whatever you might be allergic to, because you have the allergy. But for the rest of us who've tried these delicious treats and then our weight or our health puts us in the position where we can no longer have them, we feel deprived, right? And that's expected. It's expected that you're going to feel deprived. When I went on vacation, I'm from the Caribbean, my aunt was making a delicious meal. It was called roti. And it was so spicy that my little Canadian mouth couldn't eat it. And my brother, my parents were having this delicious meal, and I didn't eat. Now, don't feel sorry for me. They gave me something else. But a few days later, when my aunt made the same dish again, but she made it without the spice for me, well, the hot spice for me, I remember how excited I was to be part of it, right? And to taste, it was delicious. It really was delicious. I was happy to be able to eat it. These kind of scenarios are real. And I feel like when we're trying to manage our health, we're trying to manage our weight loss, it's important for us to understand that feeling left out is a real thing. We do need to figure out how to manage that. As we get older and we're out in the world, societal expectations and norms start to play a role in how we feel about the food we're eating and our interactions with food. One thing that impacted me was the fact that in my culture, so whether it's the Canadian one or the Caribbean one, it's the woman who tends to be cooking the meals. And I remember, first of all, the fact that I don't like to cook put pressure on me to learn to do this thing that I'm not really fond of. But second of all, and more related to my weight, if I'm constantly paying attention to something, delicious somethings, tasty somethings become much more my focus, right? Because I'm always thinking about food, especially in the situation where you hate cooking. Making fast and fun things became my focus more so than making the healthiest thing on certain occasions. Why? Because I hate being in the kitchen to begin with. At least make it fun for me. Now, here's where it gets tricky, because we're taught to believe that pizza could be healthy, right? If you make it the right way. We're taught to believe that pasta, so spaghetti and meatballs, that's healthy. We're taught to believe that, potatoes are healthy. So a big pile of mashed potatoes on the plate, that's okay. A lot of the fun things that we love to eat, in fact, aren't as healthy as we've been made to believe. And so as a woman, cooking for my family and in front of food a lot, not liking this process, but then wanting to enjoy myself, I ended up cooking things that were fun, not necessarily the most healthy, and that had an impact on my weight. Food is obviously very important, but not for the reason that we tend to say it's important. Up until this point, I've been talking about food, and I haven't mentioned the most important factor, which is nutrition and energy. Somehow we've shifted from seeing food as necessary for health, as necessary because we need the building blocks and the energy from food, to seeing food as a tasty, fun, entertaining thing that we do several times a day. We're much more likely to focus on tradition, like this is what we've always eaten, taste, because we want it to be delicious, and convenience, easy in and out of the kitchen in a few minutes, than we are to focus on how the food we're eating is affecting our health, affecting our weight, affecting our skin, and like how our pain levels and our energy levels and our brain function. We aren't interested in the energy we're getting from the food. We're only focusing on it being fun and tasty. And eventually something goes wrong. Eventually we have a problem, and then we turn to extremes, right? We're going to become like really focused on our diet, and we're going to only eat these things. And the problem that I see there is that when we go to these extremes, we're doing it because we're trying to, as quickly as we possibly can, solve the problem immediately and be healthy right now, which first of all doesn't happen. It takes a long time for us to become healthy. But second of all, is ignoring the fact that we didn't get there overnight. The poor health that we're trying to solve had been accumulating from the time we started eating solid food. That means from the time I was a baby. There's no way to solve that in a few months. The science says that we rebuild a body in 7 to 10 years. So what that means is everything I'm eating today is creating the new Violet that 7 to 10 years from now, I will be completely rebuilt. If we consider that in the last 50 years, we've allowed processed foods and ultra-processed foods to be a mainstay in our diet. And along with the introduction of those foods came an increase in the weight of most North Americans. Those foods are not healthy. Now, I know that most people are focused on the weight part of that story. I want you to focus on the not healthy part of that story, because ultra-processed food and processed food is actually what most of us are building our body with. I believe it was what was causing all the pain in my body, because taking those processed foods out of my life, yes, I lost a lot of weight. But I didn't only lose weight, I regained health. When I started the keto diet, I was able to get rid of the pain and inflammation that was in my body. So what that means is that I went from being a person at my worst point, unable to climb the stairs because my hip was hurting me so badly, to a person who was back to snowboarding, skiing, longboarding, bike riding, badminton. All my activities came back. Climbing in the trees with my daughter, all of my activities came back. I'm older and my body feels better than when I was 20 years younger. And I'm saying 20 because my pain issues started when I was in my early 20s. I was blaming sports for my pain when in fact it was the foods that I was eating. Processed foods are taste first, nutrition second, meaning that they're relying very heavily on salt, sugar, and fat to get us to crave them and want them and chase them. And honestly, to be able to eat them, because if they didn't put the salt, sugar, and fat combinations the way that they did, they don't taste great. And the nutritional value that you're getting out of these foods is mostly fortification that's coming from them putting chemical versions of what would have been healthy in the unprocessed natural vegetables and natural foods that you should have been eating in the first place. Getting my carb count down under 5 grams showed me something. It showed me that the bloated, gassy way that I was living life wasn't necessary. And it showed me that real food can actually taste good. And that happened because when you're not chasing these sugary, flavored, delicious foods that are created to keep us chasing, you actually allow yourself to eat healthy foods, and those healthy foods taste good. Now, I don't know if they taste good because when you start giving your body something that it wants you to keep doing, it sends you signals to say, oh, wow, keep doing that, which we know our body does, right? It encourages good behavior by releasing neurotransmitters that allow us to want to keep doing the good thing because it feels good. Eating healthy vegetables felt good to me and therefore tasted good to me, and therefore I still do it. There are a lot of people that talk about how hard it is to do keto. At the same time, those people still allow these processed foods into their lives. They're keto versions, but they're still processed foods, which means they still are using that same formulation of it needs to taste like this for us to want it. And it keeps us chasing because salt, sugar, and fat is the combination that gets it to taste right. Whether that's real sugar or artificial sweetener doesn't change that it's causing chasing in us humans. Humans are made to survive. So if you give your body poor quality foods, it's going to do whatever it can to make sure that it keeps you alive. And some of what it's going to do is not going to feel good. But if you give your body quality, nutrient-dense food, then it doesn't struggle. And it's going to actually thrive rather than putting you in the position of feeling badly. You will feel amazing. I actually think it was a mistake for me to let myself be entertained by food. I think that was me doing the wrong thing because it stopped me from choosing meals based on how it's going to help to grow and fuel me, and had me focus only on how delicious these things were going to taste and how fun they were and how quick and convenient they were to make. And guess what? I gained a bunch of weight to commemorate those decisions. Every day, we have the opportunity to make a decision. Are we going to eat high quality, delicious foods that build our healthy body and give us clean energy? Or are we going to go for processed, tasty fun that builds a lesser quality body? And I think a lot of the times we say yes to the lesser quality fun food because we don't see that damage right away. Remember, we started damaging ourselves back when we were babies. But we don't need the entire 50 years to clean it up. We need 7 to 10. Are you willing to put in the energy in the next 7 to 10 years to clean up your body and get back to baseline? I have another video coming about the idea that we are all obese and yet somehow we're also malnourished. I'm going to explain more about that in the video that's coming up. So you probably want to subscribe and ring the bell so that you're going to be notified by YouTube when that video comes out. But in the meantime, I suggest that you watch this video right here that's about healthy eating. There are some really good tips to keep you on track. Thanks for watching the video, and I can't wait to talk to you again in the next video, so ring the bell. Talk to you soon.